Shawn Purdy, welcome back to Sports Spectrum, my friend. It's always good to see you.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We get to do it in person. That's my favorite kind of interviews.
We finally met each other.
Yeah, finally. It's been a few years since you've been on Sports Spectrum. A few things happened since that time. Really what I want to focus on, though, is kind of going through maybe the last year and the pillar moments that have kind of taken place for you as a dad, watching Brock kind of go through the season that he just went through in less than a year as we record this in early 2023. So I want to start with the 2022 NFL Draft.
Right.
And everybody knows the story because Brock ended up being taken as the last pick of that draft, Mr. Irrelevant.
Right.
But I'm curious for you as a dad, what was it like going into that day? Just seeing, not knowing Brock might get drafted, might not get drafted. Where is he going to go? What was that day like for you?
It wasn't as uptight as you would think, just because in his college recruiting, you know, it was strange, and it blew up in the end, of course, and, you know, had a lot of stuff going on. But I always felt that it was going to be the same way in the draft. You know, Brock just always has to prove himself. And so with that, that gave me a sense of calm.
Yeah.
And I just knew, you know, I just want him to have a chance. And so he got the last pick.
The last chance.
He just barely got his foot in the door,
yeah.
and he got his chance. And I was okay with that. I really was. We were excited, and we were honored that the Niners picked him. And so it was just the same old, you know, just, all right, Brock, go prove yourself.
Prayer is such a part of, I know, your whole family and your walk with Christ. What are the prayers when you think back, if you can even remember, I don't even know, last year,
right,
to God for the draft? Like, if you're a dad, because I'm thinking as a father,
right,
and it's my son, and like you want the best for your son in obviously every situation. What is the prayer, though, that you might have been praying going into that time with
calm for our whole family, and just asking God to be present with us all, and knowing that you're going to find the right place. And whether it's at that time, whether it was at the Niners and then later on maybe somewhere else, I don't know, but I know that you're going to put him where he needs to be.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we just pray about giving us calm through the whole thing. Please be present with us through the whole thing. And we just want peace about it. And with that, we will enjoy it.
Did you have peace?
I did.
Yeah.
I really did.
So that's an answer to prayer right there.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of gratitude in those prayers as well, especially after he gets drafted and watching this whole sort of journey kind of come together and take shape. It's never a guarantee when you're a 7th round pick late in the draft that you'll even make the team.
Right.
So go to that moment for me when you found out that Brock was going to do that, because I'm thinking from your perspective, that was kind of a dream for you, I have to imagine, as a pro baseball player.
Correct.
But you never got to the big leagues.
Right.
As we talked about last time you were on the show,
Right.
You get to see Brock make the team. How about that moment?
So, you know, we left him alone all summer long, just, you know, making sure he had a good day and so on, because, you know, we know what he's thinking about. We know what he has to do. So when the moment came where I was hearing some rumblings that, man, he might make this team, I was at the gym on the stair climber and
Get that workout in.
and I had to eat it for a little bit. I couldn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
And then boom, you know, it came out, and I was just like, good for you for keeping the faith in your Lord and keeping the faith in yourself, you know, and not focusing on who's in front of you or whatever. Just go do what you got to do to have yourself prepared. And wow, we were just we're so happy for him. Not us, happy for him, because we know he truly loves the game. And we're just like, wow, good for you.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you guys were at his first preseason game.
Yes.
What was that experience? Because everybody has seen a lot of what's happened since, but like the first preseason game, when you don't know what's going to end up happening, that experience?
Well, to be honest with you, I was sort of digging on the fact that he's only playing in the fourth quarter. So there's 3 easy quarters for me, you know?
That's right.
And then it went well.
Yeah.
And, oh, man, it was, so surreal. And it was against the Packers. And, I know that, your starters are out by then or whatever. But, yeah, it was real fun. We had some couple friends with us that are very special to us. And
that's great.
What a great day.
What was it like for you in the conversations you were having with him as he was navigating this rookie season as a professional? Because you were a professional, maybe not at the big league level, but you were a professional baseball player for a long time. What were those conversations, if there were any, about what it's like to adjust? Because just your rookie year in general is always difficult. Forget having all the success that would end up happening. What were those conversations like?
So there weren't a lot. When we talk, it's just simple things, keeping him at ease. It was just in the beginning, I said, hey, look, go play your style of football and be yourself. And, the beautiful thing is Kyle Shanahan said, hey, play your style of football, executing my game plan. And that's just music to my ears as a father. And if he wanted to talk about something, he'd say, hey, what do you think? And, I'd give my opinion on something. And that was it. Other than that, so you get your kids through high school and college. Now it's time to, take your hands off the wheel. Right. And, they're a professional now and they know what they got to do. So in that sense, it's just regular father-son talk.
I don't know why I just thought this, but you just said, be yourself by executing my game plan.
Yeah.
There's parallels.
Wow. Yeah.
To faith in that, isn't there? Like God calls us to all be who we're called to be individually, but the game plan, if you will, or his word and his desire for all of us doesn't change. Yeah,
everybody thinks you have to change. God loves you how you are.
Yeah.
And that's just the beauty of it. And it's just he gives you the guidelines of, how we should be doing this thing, but he wants you to be yourself doing it. And so the change is going to be made by him, by allowing him to have total control, and then you become that person that you thought you had to do, but God does it for you.
Shawn Purdy is joining us here on Sports Spectrum. As you and your entire family are being your unique, authentic selves, I'm curious, what is it like to be a dad watching your son play professional football? Because I'd be a wreck watching. I don't have a son, but if I had a son, I don't know how I'd be able to even. I get nervous watching my favorite team play, much less when if my son was out there.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It's the build up to the game is when I'm a mess. If I could just go from hotel room straight to the game, I'm golden. It's the build up to it, and then I just want it to get going. And I'm not gonna lie to you. It's your insides are a mess, and I can't. You'll never be able to describe it to somebody. But
are you able to find peace even in the midst of I don't want to call it anxiousness, but whatever that might be feeling, that little the butterflies of a parent? Are you able to find peace in those moments? Because I know it can be tough, even if you are a believer.
I gotta tell you, I pray my brains out the whole game.
That's amazing,
and it's exhausting.
I can imagine.
It's exhausting, and I'm just being honest. And but I just, the whole time I just got to tell myself, God, you love my son. You want nothing but good for my son.
Yeah.
That's the peace. That's like the reminder of peace that, hey, he's got it. God's already been down the road. That's already been paved, and there's nothing Shawn Purdy's going to do thinking this or thinking that, and you just got to let it go.
Yeah. I want to talk to a couple of moments that a lot of people who are listening would have seen publicly,
right?
With Brock and certainly with you. The first is his first start, because there was a game before that where Jimmy gets hurt.
Right.
Brock comes in, plays well, get the W, and that's great. Like as a father, and I want to ask you about that game too. And then there's the next game, which was the build up, the big moment of A, his first start, B, going against the greatest of all time in Tom Brady, all happening in that moment. So let's start with the first game that he comes in and does really well, gets the win. And because you don't know, he had, I think, some time earlier in the year, a couple snaps here and there,
Right.
some mop-up duty as they
Yep,
call it.
yep.
But he gets in, and now he's the man, and he's playing well. That game, what do you remember most about that one?
Well, once again, the Dolphins, that's my team. That was our family's team growing up.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Is that
and
right?
Dan Marino's my guy,
Okay.
and that's why Brock wears 13.
Okay.
And so prior to the game, I was just like, so how many home games you got left? And he says, I don't know, 5. And I'm like, who are you playing? And he goes, this. And he says the Dolphins. I was like, oh, man, you know how life works out, man. I go, that's the game you're going in.
Yes.
Joking. And so I'm at work, and there's a fella that was watching the FIFA soccer tournament across from me. And I was like, hey, and he's seen Brock and the kids grow up. And I was like, hey, Dave, you want to put the game on? I said, you at least get to see Brock on the sidelines, and so, because that's our excitement, is,
So you were
there's
not
Brock.
at the game.
Hey, there's Brock. No,
Yes.
I was at work, because we're at the point where, our excitement is seeing Brock take a knee or just seeing him on the sideline. There he is.
In
There
his
he is. There he
uniform,
is.
of
Right.
course.
So, the guy turns the TV on, and Brock's got his helmet up on his head, and I go, hey, there's Brock. And then he's like, how come he looks at that tablet? And I go, well, the quarterbacks in between plays, and I saw Jimmy go by in a cart, and I go, oh, man. I said, I think Brock's going in, Dave. And sure enough, man, he starts warming up. Man, my hands start sweating, and I was just like, wow, this is happening,
Yeah.
So I watched the first 2 quarters at work, and then I closed everything up and zipped home. And then, of course, it just started off with my wife and my daughter. I get here, and there's like 25 people here in the second half. And and just to see it all unfold against the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
And, then they showed a shot of Dan Marino was in the box up there. And I was like, man, come on, man, this is crazy. And then to get the win was just pinch yourself.
So I didn't know all of the sort of background of the Dolphins connection and kind of how God works. I mean, he worked in so many different ways that I really want to get into with you throughout this season, for you, for the family, for Brock, obviously. But just to have it kind of start there.
That's crazy.
Against the teams that you guys all cheered for.
The thing where you talk about being all wound up about watching your favorite team. Well, I got years of that with the Miami Dolphins. So, and then now here he is playing. That's his first, significant NFL game. It's just insane.
And he played well.
Yeah.
And they won.
Yeah.
Like, that's all you would hope for as a dad.
Yep.
But then the next week comes. And I know the Purdy family was at this game.
Yes, sir.
There was no doubt they were missing. They were not missing this game. The
No.
first start, it was in Santa Clara, obviously, against Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And there's this moment in that game. I don't even need to talk about beforehand because I can imagine what that was like. But there's a moment where, I hate to say it, but you kind of go viral a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they showed you at that moment when he has this success and you're weeping and having that dad moment that I think a lot of dads all have had at one time or another with their kids doing something.
Right.
Maybe not doing what he was doing on a football field against Tom Brady. Can you describe, you say you prayed your guts out. Was that a game where you were praying your guts out the whole game?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So leading up to the game, I know you said you don't want to talk about the beginning, but
No, you
I
can
said,
talk about however
I
you
said,
want.
you're playing the Buccaneers, not Tom Brady. Okay.
That's right.
I said, that's who you're playing against, and then, Tom's doing his thing against the Niners. So he was like, yes, sir, absolutely. I understand that. And I'm like, okay, that was just my only piece of advice for that game. And so luckily, that camera only got me once because I was crying through that game.
You were weeping the whole time?
Several times.
Yeah.
Before the game, when he came out of the tunnel, we like to stay out of the way, but they were like, come on, be down in the tunnel when they come out. And so we were, and of course, we're balling in there, and Cheryl Bosa was consoling us. And so then game time comes, and everything's, just unfolding. And then what really got me was the Purdy chant. I'm just like, man, I'm not hearing this. This is insane. So, and I'm very emotional for my kids anyways, and I've taught my boys that real men cry.
Yes.
And it's okay. And, and I love you guys, and we'll watch movies, and they always go, "Dad, are you crying?" And,
You're
I'm
the guy.
like, "Yep,
You're the one.
I'm that guy, man."
Yeah.
So and I'm it's okay.
I imagine there were a ton of tears after that game too. I think he came over and you all were able to give him that hug.
Yeah.
Kind of leaning over the railing there. Describe that moment.
Well, that's everybody's football guy, and that's just my son.
Yeah.
And seeing all of that unfold, just knowing all the games he's watched with me since he was little, wishing he was in that TV, and there he's doing it. And man, I'm proud of you, and I love you, and you just want to burst. You're just so happy for him, and you love him so much, because he's Brock, not the football player, but he's Brock.
Right. You're seeing the same kid that you watched when he was 6 or 7 years old, probably first pick up that football and throw it to you in the backyard or whatever.
Yeah.
And now here you are in a moment like this.
Absolutely.
It's pretty powerful. Then everything goes crazy. He doesn't lose, and he starts going on this run, and he's playing so well on so many big stages. How important was it for you in the conversations that maybe you had with your wife and even your family to try and stay who you were, stay grounded in the midst of the platform? And I'll ask Brock this too if we get a chance to talk to him, but to stay who you are, true to yourselves, true to your faith in the midst of a platform that's getting insanely elevated in a very, very fast way.
I think when that kind of stuff unfolds, you focus on being even more humble. Okay. That, letting people know, hey, we're the same people. And that's so important to us. And I was telling a guy today at the gym that I was like, you got to try to surround yourself with good people. And at that same time, just be yourselves. And that's what we focus on being, and keeping it simple. And that platform of just being ourselves, and being so grateful, for what God does in our lives, and grateful for the support, the fans and our friends and family. And we just can't get across how grateful we are. And so I think that when you are grateful, you're humble. You treat things in that manner.
Yeah, and I think the more you do that, the more you practice it. It's just like, they say you exercise that faith muscle, the more it becomes more
correct,
natural and normal to kind of, as you go about practicing gratitude and practicing humility, you're ready for a moment like this where everything's elevated. A lot of eyeballs are on you, your family, your son, and you're able to still be humble. Because I think a lot of people, I'm not ever going to think about who that might be or names or anything, but I think a lot of people might lose that humility because they can start having a lot of people pat you on the back and saying how great you are.
Right. Well, the one person that we're focused on not disappointing is God.
Yeah.
So when I lay down at night and and when I wake up in the next morning, you go through that, what did I say? What did I do? And so on. And that's who I'm going to answer to. And if I do that, or we do that, then everything else will have been done right, I think.
As you kept going, that's what I love about this story and being able to talk to you, because there's so many twists and turns and even some highs and certainly lows too within this amazing journey that took place over the past year. The Niners are going on this really great run as a number 2 seed, and you see them play Seattle in his first playoff start, and he plays great, and there's the Purdy family giving him a big hug at the end. Then you play the mighty Dallas Cowboys, America's team, and you get through that game, and suddenly you're at the NFC Championship game. I don't know, were you guys in Philadelphia? You weren't able to go to Philadelphia. You stayed home.
Yeah.
So that's where I'd like to go to, because I think the outcome of that, nobody saw coming.
Right.
God did. Obviously, nothing surprises him. Yeah. What was that moment like? Because you're at these other games, the 2 playoff games, I believe, right?
Yeah.
The Seahawks and the Giants and the Cowboys game.
Yeah.
So now you're not at this game in Philadelphia. Do you remember kind of what maybe you were thinking about with the Lord before the game? Was it the same as the other games as far as like praying your guts out and things like that, and kind of trying to find that peace and having that little, butterflies in your stomach?
I felt good about that game. And, Brock has been in loud environments and so on. And playing against Texas Longhorns. I mean, that place is insane. Seattle and so on. And I know that they were just really focused and so that gives me, they always are focused, but I mean, I just felt good about that game, and so when it happened, I think I knew what it was immediately. I injured my elbow playing, and so
you have Tommy John too?
I avoided it.
Okay.
I did 4 months of rehab, and I made it through. But I saw what his arm did, and I go, everybody's like talking about his wrist and this, and I was like, it's his elbow, man. And sure enough, I had, his agent was there and called me and said it's his elbow. So I was just immediately right there. I'm like, all right, now we got to focus on moving forward with this, and just knowing that God has always loved Brock and taken care of Brock and guided Brock. Then I'm like, well, this is the next one we're going to put in your hands.
There's never more telling of a moment, I think, with our faith when James 1 becomes truly real to us.
Yeah.
And I think you've had those throughout the journey, and I know Brock has too. We all have.
Yeah.
But this is where it's so high, and it feels like it's ascending, and all of a sudden a trial hits.
Yeah.
Can you kind of walk us through what that experience from your perspective was like in the James 1 moment that you have to go through? You see the trials, you see your son, you never want to see your son get injured, obviously, but it happens.
Right.
And you're watching this from afar.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Well, it's a storm that we're going to go through, and the Bible tells us we're gonna, and you hope you're not, but it's going to happen. And so it's just a matter of, all right, we got to hunker down, we just got. I never ask God why, and I don't ask for answers. I just ask, show us what we got to do.
Clarity.
And this is what we're going to do. Clarity and peace about it, and the peace of mind of how long. Okay, so what we focus on is let's go have a great day today. Okay, and then let's have another one tomorrow. And another one again, and you start adding up these days, and before you know it, it's time to go play football.
Right.
And that's just all I knew, because with his brother, we went through the same thing, and that was our approach. Don't think about way down there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's think about right now, and Lord, just be with us today, and then we'll do it again tomorrow.
Were you surprised to see him come back in? I think from a perspective of how the game played out, it was, having watched football for 49 years old, since probably I was 45 years ago, I've never seen a situation like that, where they basically ran out of quarterbacks who weren't injured, and Brock had to come back in, and you knew he wasn't able to throw the ball. Yeah. How hard was that for you as a dad to just see that moment? Because he's back in, and I think it showed the toughness and the character of who he was.
Absolutely.
But also knowing if he could throw, he would have.
He would, and he did one time.
Yeah.
And I was like, man. I was proud of him, because I know Brock loves his teammates, and let's go figure something out, use me somehow. And so that was the dog in him that I was proud of. And but I knew they weren't going to do anything to I was just hoping maybe he'd tuck it and run or something. And he said, I did offer that to coach. And he's like,
you're breaking out all the plays here.
He's
What's the playbook, and how deep can it go?
I just know that he will go to war for his coaches and his teammates. And he's always been that way. So I'm very proud of that.
What he said afterwards, I thought was very telling too, about how he handled it.
Yeah.
Because that's the moment, right? When the spotlight's on you when you're winning. Yeah. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's certainly easier to stand up and even give praise and glory to God. Yeah. But when you go through something like that, it becomes a lot harder. I think you don't see a lot of guys when they lose a Super Bowl, we'll say, still point to God. He didn't lose a Super Bowl, but it's the next closest game to lose. Yeah. And I thought he still did a really impressive job from my perspective on making sure that the glory still went to God.
Yeah.
That must have been, I think, even more of a moment for you to be proud than any other moment, is when you're still pointing to God in the midst of going through probably one of the more difficult seasons of his life as a football player.
Yeah, it's, you don't want to be lip service, you want to live it. And he truly feels that way, win, lose, whatever. I'm going to give the glory to God. He gave me the opportunity to be here to win or lose, and you have to be grateful for that, because some people don't have that opportunity to be in that position to win or lose.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I'm just so proud of, I just tell him, I'm just so proud of who you are. And, and how you've never wavered from that,
Yeah.
And so that's, that was a proud moment. And it was a heartbreaking moment for that organization and the team.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm very proud of how he handled it.
My last question for you. You might have remembered this question when we talked the last time, because it's a question I ask a lot of our guests, but I think it's really poignant to ask that here when you think about the journey that you've been on as a dad over the past year, we'll say. What's the great lesson that God has taught you?
Trust.
Shawn Purdy this year.
Trust.
Yeah.
Trust me. I love you. I love your son. Trust me. And so that is the fiery arrow that Satan shoots at me every day. And so with that, I have taken it to another level personally to arm myself in God's word before I walk out the door, because I need it. Because, Satan will have his way with you in so many crafty ways. And mine is, it's worry. I want to say trust. So as a dad, the worry and so on. And God, once I started arming myself every day, all day long, and, the Holy Spirit's right here. Use me. And so once I started doing that, I would say these last couple of years, it's been a more peaceful thing that, we all say we trust and whatever. And so I truly have learned the last 2 years the meaning of it and calling on it. And so, yeah, that's what it would be for me.
Somebody once told me, if you trust, you can't worry.
Right.
Because it's impossible if you're trusting to worry.
It's an ongoing war in your head. And so if you have to talk to God all day long, every minute, that's the way it's got to be, man.
Or pray your guts out the entire game he's playing, right?
That's called spiritual warfare. And when Satan knows what you're wanting to do and how you're wanting to live, that's when he pays close attention to you. When you're doing it how he wants you to do it, he's like, all right, I don't have to worry about him. But the guy that's trying to walk that walk, Satan puts the gloves on, man, and he's coming.
The book of James says, consider it joy when you face trials of many kind. And I got to tell you, I feel and I see and I hear joy, even in the midst of this uncertainty that this offseason might bring and not knowing how it's all going to play out. There's still joy among Shawn Purdy and the Purdy family.
Yeah, because it's an opportunity to show God's going to be with Brock. He's going to heal him, and get to show God's greatness through all of that again. That's how I look at it, how we look at it.
Shawn Purdy, thank you, buddy.
Absolutely.
Always
Amen.
good to see you.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely.
We love what you guys do. So proud of what you guys do.
Thank you.
And God bless Sports Spectrum.